Welcome to episode 153 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the 38th special edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, Josh Fine. Sorry for the result there on Saturday, man, but your Jacksonville Jaguars definitely have a lot of hope for the future, keeping up with Patrick Mahomes and all that.
Yeah, the Jags, of course, taking the L Saturday night, to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But it was thankful for the season that they had and being able to pull out a winning season and make it into the playoffs, and having a home playoff game, being able to witness that, and thankful for being able to experience all that. So hopefully they come back next year and are better and able to make it to the end. So hopefully that happens and everything. But kind of almost a perfect transition now, because we got the Rolex 24 coming up this Saturday. So like pretty much just flip to the next chapter and just move on to racing just like that. So I'm sure of course there's still NFL left and everything. You've got your team left and everything, so root for that. But as far as racing season goes, just jump right into it now. So ready to go on that end.
Yeah, the Rolex, which you're going to be attending this weekend, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the reintroduction or the return of GTP and nomenclature in sports cars and American sports car racing and prototypes comes this weekend. 9 cars from 4 manufacturers will take the start at Daytona this weekend. Of course, the GTD and GTD Pro category is full of talent. You'll have LMP2 and LMP3, which are, LMP2 definitely has some quality lineups and could be sneaky pick, depending on how the reliability is for the GTP cars here this weekend. But we'll preview that. We'll go through the entry list, try to kind of pinpoint some people that might have a real chance. I mean, qualifying took place on Sunday. The defending champions of the Rolex 24 and the defending series champion Meyershank Racing Team qualified on pole for this race on Saturday. So something to look at. We'll get into that more. NASCAR news today, obviously with Jimmy Johnson and his new crew chief, somebody that's familiar to a lot of people who were listening to MRN last year, especially, coming over to work for the Legacy Motor Club. And forgot, but before all that, we'll talk about the Jags. I'll talk about the Niners beating the fucking Cowgirls and sending them home and sending Skip Bayless stupid ass into and Michael Irvin and all these other idiot sticks into taking a couple of years off of their life because they couldn't deal with the fact they can't get through 28 years. What is it? 28 years since the last time they actually 27 if you talk real time, but yeah, 27 years since they made a championship game and a Super Bowl. So let that continue for many eons to go. They only can't happen to a better team than the Dallas Cowgirls. We'll get into the conference championship weekend and all the happenings during this divisional round, and things to look at for maybe some of those teams that went out. Coaching news no major coaching news has gone through yet, no hires, but there are people that are in line possibly for some jobs, but to be determined on that. I think we're going to be waiting at least another week before some of those moves come off. The roundup will go over Sebastian Ogier's dominant performance at Monte Carlo, yet another win for him there. Supercross in San Diego, seeing more of the same in recent times, the Eli Tomac and Jet Lawrence. Nitro Rallycross was at Trois Rivières, so we'll get into that. Formula E will come back this weekend in Saudi, so they'll have a doubleheader, and then the Race of Champions, which will be on the snow and ice. So see who's in that. Josh will tell us all things going on in the world of iRacing and Sims in his Sim segment, and then we'll close the deal. So yeah, it's 38th special, birthday week for me. So trying to celebrate it best way possible. The Niners started it out really well by getting a W there, and we got the racing, got the Rolex coming this weekend. So it's always nice to have that. It used to be Super Bowl weekend for years. Then they moved and the Rolex. Then they moved that back into February, and the Rolex used to be in that general vicinity. They moved that back into January. So now the Rolex is kind of when the Rolex is coming around, and the Roar, that time is now for me to go and get older. 19 days younger than old Sir Lewis Hamilton there, and there are plenty of other people who have famous people in January birthdays, but I'll digress. First piece, of course, the in the NFL, Jacksonville ended up going to Kansas City and put up a good fight, and they had a chance. It wasn't the cleanest performance, but in the grand scheme of things, looking at where they were just a year ago, and to be in a position to possibly win, beat the number one seed, winning or losing only 27-20 is a good. I mean, good performance. Probably wanted more, I figure, but hey, I mean, they got to Patrick Mahomes. Now he has a high ankle, so that's gonna definitely hamper him as these next few weeks go by. His mobility wasn't as good after that. I think the backbreaker really had nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes, and that it was when Chad Henne came into the game and literally drove him down the field. That's basically where the game was lost, in my opinion. But of course, Josh being the diehard Jacksonville fan, I'll give you the floor in terms of what you thought and what you saw from your team getting to the playoffs, getting a home playoff win, going to Kansas City and putting up a fight. Not many teams have really done that this year. Two of them were playing yesterday. But otherwise, for Doug Peterson, a great job in his first year as head coach of the Jaguars, and Trevor Lawrence rising up to become that stud franchise guy that everybody in Duval Nation wanted when they drafted him number one overall.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there, and with Jacksonville and their ability to go out and win games, and they proved it this season. They were able to come back multiple times and be able to win games, even when they're down by more than one score, and being able to do all those things. But they were gonna have to do it again on Saturday afternoon in Kansas City, but they just came up just short of being able to do that. And you talked about that 98-yard drive to that Chad Henne led them down the field and got a touchdown. I mean, it is kind of a backbreaker, but I mean, it's not like the ultimate one that lost them the game, really. Because if you look at how they played in that drive for Kansas City, wasn't really much of anything that Chad Henne had to do. I mean, he had some pretty easy passes that he made. You could argue that, yeah, probably could have covered better. They did have a tip pass that probably should have been intercepted, but I think one of the linebackers got in the way, and then they and he got in the way of the cornerback and could have been a pick six there, but didn't come up with that one. But at the same time, they gave up a 40-yard run there during that drive. So I think that was part of it there. And Chad Henne didn't really do anything special. He just did what he was asked to do and led them down and got a touchdown. But I mean, they're still in the game and it's still early. So I don't really consider that to be a backbreaker really. But I think the real backbreaker came late in the game when they had a chance to go and get a touchdown, and Trevor Lawrence just converted a third down and 10 by scrambling and lowering his shoulder and to get the first down, and then threw a pass to Jamal Agnew and fumbled the ball on the 3-yard line. And honestly, that's really debatable if that was even a fumble at all. And surprisingly, at least from the TV side, they went to commercial and didn't really review it or anything. And then it just didn't feel like they gave it enough time for review, from the, fan perspective, I guess, and from the league, I guess. So that is definitely something that you should consider. There is, what exactly is a fumble, what exactly is a catch in the NFL, and that I think that was part of it. But offensively, they had chances to do damages, and they had a lot of plays that they kind of left on the table or weren't able to execute. And I think part of it was the interior offensive line for Jacksonville just wasn't protecting as well as they needed to, and they couldn't get really any downfield passing going. Trevor did have a 50-yard or 60-yard bomb that should have been caught by Christian Kirk, but just really didn't, haul it in. And, I think Christian Kirk had a chance there to, put it in the end zone or, be in the 5-yard line and, possibly get a touchdown there. So, I mean, they still got down the field and got a field goal, but, it would have been a hell of a lot easier to get a score with a touchdown if they had converted on that catch. But, it is what it is. So, you have that. That could have been a play. You have the fumble, and then, the 90-yard or 98-yard touchdown in the second quarter for Chad Henne. So, unfortunately for Jags, they go home, but I think they'll be back next year. There'll be more opportunities next year and beyond. I think they got the head coach and they got the quarterbacks, so I don't think you have to really worry about that anymore. It's just being able to find the next set of guys in the draft and in free agency to be able to get the pieces together to possibly make a Super Bowl run. Obviously, nobody expected that this year, and I mean, didn't even expect the playoffs. But it shows them being able to make the playoffs this year and get to this point shows that they made a lot of progress, and they have the ability to go even further with more pieces around them next season. So we'll see what happens. Of course, they get Calvin Ridley soon. I mean, as soon as he gets reinstated, and then they'll be able to work together and get chemistry and everything, and with him and Trevor Lawrence. And we'll see what they're able to achieve next season, and if they upgrade certain positions. I think slot corner, I think interior offensive line, I think maybe tight end, like a second tight end, a second running back. I think those are positions to possibly improve. So we'll see, what they're able to do from there. But incredible season for Jaguars, and incredible year. After 5 years of losing, and then being able to be in this position, can't really ask for more than that. And certainly a lot of fun. Probably the most fun I've ever had as a fan. Just being able to see them come back like that, from multiple games, and just have a real franchise quarterback this time, and being able to see him grow and develop throughout the year. So just real thankful for that. And it doesn't hurt as much as the the AFC Championship loss to the Patriots 5 years ago, which actually was 5 years to the day, January 21, 2018, and then January 21, 2023. So literally 5 years to the day that they lost to the Patriots. They lose to the number one seed this year in the NFL, the Chiefs. But it is what it is. And that team, they had in 2017, they had really one opportunity to do it and go to the Super Bowl, and they weren't able to, and whatever reason, and just knew that that year it hurt because they got so close, and they, of course, the refs in that game had a lot more influence in that game with calls against the Jaguars, but then also it's just really hard to have that type of dominating year on defense in 2017 and, be able to repeat that again and go to the playoffs and, with the type of offense that they have. So, it's going to be really hard to do that. And that's why, that one hurt. But, this one still hurts. But, and I know that they'll be able to have more opportunities like that in the next couple of years because they got the coach and they got the quarterback. So, I think that's the difference there. And there's a lot of hope, even though it hurts. There's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of opportunity going forward. So we'll just have to wait and see, and really just wish I could see him on TV again next weekend. But we'll have to wait until September for the regular season. August for preseason, whatever. So we'll see. But one thing I will say is Chris Collinsworth. I'm pretty sure his knees were probably sore after that game. Maybe NBC, maybe they had to give him couple extra napkins, after finishing that game because he was giving Patrick Mahomes a lot of praise there and everything. Maybe I might have to hit up Monica Lewinsky and ask for some tips on how to do a better job. So yeah, I'm laying the heat there because really disappointing to hear them just suck off Patrick Mahomes like that the entire game. And, I was hoping, the Jags would be on prime time and, this year, and they were. But, now that we've seen them with NBC and everything, I'm like, fuck you, NBC. I'd rather have the third-rate CBS crew that, has been covering the Jags the last, 5 years, 6 years, cover them every week. And at least they, talk about them positively, or at least non-biased against the other team, I guess, whatever. So, I didn't really like that. So, Chris Collinsworth was able to somehow praise Patrick Mahomes during a Trevor Lawrence play somehow. So, I think it was one of the plays Trevor just had kind of a Patrick Mahomes type play, and then he just made it all about Mahomes instead of crediting Trevor. So that was one thing that stuck out to me throughout that game. But from the commentary side, but it is what it is. But again, thankful for the year, and just hope we're able to get back to this point and be able to get further than the divisional round next year.
Yeah, and the potential is there. The division is ripe, honestly. Tennessee is in flux. They don't really have they're missing a lot of weapons on offense. They have issues with their line. They have issues at quarterback. They basically have Derrick Henry, and that's it. Defense, whatever. There's a lot of flux there. Houston's going to be the number one overall pick, and they're going to be picking a rookie. They'll have a rookie QB, so they're nowhere close. And then Indianapolis is also dumpster fire. They're going to get another quarterback since Andrew Luck retired. So as it stands right now, on just the face value paper, Jacksonville is in the driver's seat in that division, at least for a year, maybe couple 2-3 years, as long as Trevor's under Trevor's rookie contract is a good time to make some things happen. Will Trent Baalke actually do what he needs to do to make that happen? He fucked it up with Alex Smith. He definitely fucked it up with Colin Kaepernick because he hated Jim Harbaugh. Will he go and allow Doug Peterson to do what he needs to do and give him the pieces he needs? I think Calvin Ridley, coming back from his gambling deal and the long hiatus, he's somebody that could really change the whole entire dynamic of that offense. Christian Kirk kind of can be they can start switching him around. You have Zay Jones gets into a slot position where with his speed and he's lanky, he can go up the middle. You can have 4 wide receiver sets. You can go and have different spread option looks. You have ETN hopefully getting a backup running back to give him a rest so he doesn't go and wear down and get hurt. There's definitely a lot of hope in Jacksonville, so it's a good thing to see for sure. For the 49ers, game of plenty of people were talking about it because, of course, it's Niners and Cowboys. And the Niners end up winning 19-12. And it was pretty straightforward. A lot of field goals, two of the best defenses in the NFL, and you saw that because literally both teams scored one touchdown apiece, and otherwise it was field goals. Uh, Dallas with Brett Maher shanked, or he was going to shank an extra point, but it got blocked. So they were only up 6-0. And early, Dallas was able to drive, it seemed, at will for most drives, but then Dak Prescott, of course, became Dak Prescott, and he threw bad picks. Um, Lenore gets that pick in the red zone, but Dallas saves that and uh, holds them to a field goal. Then and that was that. So that was the first points of the game, and then Dallas answered with that 79-yard drive. Uh, after that, the Niners go and get another field goal to be down or tie at 6, and then another pick, another field goal, 9-7 at halftime for the 49ers. Gould uh, made from 50, 47, and 26. Brock Purdy did struggle. There was issues with pass protection all day. Christian McCaffrey was dealing with a calf injury, so he wasn't as effective as he has been for better part of the last 3 months. Elijah Mitchell, though, came in and was running hard, made one kind of bonehead error that could have been a problem, but it didn't because the Dallas Cowboys lined up in a formation that might have been worse than the Indianapolis Colts fake punt formation that Pat McAfee was a part of, and he talked about on his show today. It's like we found the team and the for special teams or whatever, and not even special teams, but we found someone who did a worse play call and scheme for a final play, or whoever it was literally a center. It was a center and Dak Prescott, and I think there might have been Ezekiel Elliott and his 2.5 yards of carry back there. And whoever was right on that center just got absolutely baptized and murdered. And then Prescott was basically done at that point. He dumped off to Turpin, and Turpin got killed too. So that was the end of the game. Brett Maher, for all those people who are worried about him, he did make a field goal in the third quarter to make it 9-7. It was 10-9 at that point. So Dallas did have the lead. 6. Wait, yeah. 6 and 3-9. Oh no, it was actually 9-9. Right? Yeah. 9. They were tied. And then after that, the big drive was in the fourth quarter. McCaffrey did score that touchdown, 6 minutes, and that basically was the game. At that made it 16-9, and then Maher got a 43-yarder to make it 16-12. Robbie Gould gets the last field goal there to make it 19-12, and we see that final score. It wasn't a pretty game by any stretch in terms of if you wanted a lot of offense. If you like defense, it was great. That definitely was a great game for that. Prescott threw 2 picks. Running game was basically non-existent. Tony Pollard got jacked up, broke his left leg and has a high ankle. So for people in fantasy, and then now he's going into free agency. That's a big loss there. CeeDee Lamb had 10 catches for 117 yards, so he definitely showed up. Schultz got that one touchdown. Otherwise, there was really nothing. In terms of defense, trying to go through here how many tackles. Micah Parsons, I'm trying to look for what he had. He had 1 tackle and 3 assists yesterday for a guy who everyone talks about. Like, oh, he's going to be the defensive player of the year. Well, no. He did play well, and he was a menace, but in the grand scheme of things, he wasn't as big of a factor as Bosa was. Niners had to fade Ray McLeod fumble there, and they only gave up 3 points in that spot too, so that was huge. The turnovers really didn't make a huge difference, ironically, but in the end, Brock Purdy, 19 to 29, 214 yards. He made those plays. The play that everyone has seen probably on the replays is George Kittle bobbling the ball, catching it, and going and marking out and doing like WWE bits with his eyes and whatever, going nuts, proving yet again why he is one of, if not the best tight end in the NFL, because he always seems to make those kind of plays. So Kittle had 95, 5 for 95. Debo only had 56 yards on eight reps there. What do you call? Christian McCaffrey only had 35 yards on 10 carries, but he had the touchdown. Mitchell 51 yards. And then let's see, Fred Warner and Diamador. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what Jason McCourty was saying today, and when he was saying his name, I'm like, "There's no way that's his name. He's completely butchering his name." But in the end, he actually was right. Diamador Lenore, both of them got those picks. Jimmy Ward had 2 pass deflections. Fred Warner had 7 tackles and 2 tackle assists. Nick Bosa had 2 tackles. So in the end, basically, for getting into the whole semantics of who's the better player, who made a bigger difference, I think Nick Bosa made a big difference in terms of his pass rush too, to Dak Prescott making some of those bad plays. Robbie Gould going and getting 4 field goals, showing once again why he's one of the best kickers in the league. Now the Niners have to go and face the Philadelphia Eagles, the number 1 seed, the basically the best team in the NFC for a lot of the year, and their fans are obviously very cocky and believe that they're gonna win going away, which is nice. They can think that. They really didn't have any resistance playing the Giants. That game was basically over when they kicked the ball off, 38-7. Giants getting there from what they were, what the roster is, and to go and advance to this divisional round. Great job by them. A lot of decisions have to be made in terms of big players, specifically Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. But the Eagles had them outmatched. The pressure that the Eagles send with their defensive line. They sign guys off the retirement line, and so it's just constant pressure, something that we'll see how Brock Purdy can handle it. Being on the road in a hostile environment, going to be something to look at for sure. And then the other game was the Bills hosting the Bengals. Everyone was talking about the neutral site. Frankly, the Bengals should also be in that position to have a neutral site because they also were affected. But Joe Burrow had that BD energy and basically dominated that game. Whatever he wanted to do, he could. Three replacement offensive linemen, and they were able to dominate that Buffalo front 4, front 7, whatever, and basically own the game. They won the game in the trenches. They also won the game just because Joe Burrow played really damn good, and it didn't seem that hard for him. He loves being on the road. He gets off on this whole chip. He's got this chip on his shoulder deal. Nobody talks about me crap, which that's a lie. I think a lot of us do know what Joe Burrow's doing. He is. I really get a kick. I usually wouldn't be into cocky MFers, but this guy, he does it. Like he just does it, and it's just there's a confidence to the dude. You're
He's Joe
walking in.
Cool.
Yeah, he's walking in. His junk is walking in a half hour before he does. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the kind of guy he is. And so when you're talking about somebody who can do all those things and this makeshift offensive line, going to Buffalo, snow, you had DeMar Hamlin in there, all that energy. Josh Allen, rough performance. Um, Read something earlier on Yahoo Sports about how all the big holes and things that it did exist with the Buffalo Bills were exposed yet again yesterday, and there is a lot of things to correct, a lot of things to fix, even though they're a really good team. Josh Allen, it became too much a hero ball for Josh Allen and having to throw to Stephon Diggs and nobody else. And that's not really a way to win, especially in January and February. Josh, you got something
I mean,
on
they're a
Josh
dome
Allen?
team. The Bills are a dome team. That's what I'll say. I mean, it's crazy that you're in snow and you can't run the ball. Like, you should be able to run the ball in heavy snow, and they couldn't run the ball. They have been able to.
Yeah, but I'll also say that they've even with Dable as the offensive coordinator, they weren't exactly the most prolific running team anyway. Which I think is I give you I agree to an extent. How can you have those elements in that stadium, that bandbox of a stadium, and you can't run the effing ball? Thurman Thomas is a Hall of Famer. They literally built the freaking team on Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Andre Reed back in the day. That was what it was. But then they had other wide receivers. They had tight ends, Metzlars, and all that. They had great offensive line. They have issues on the interior on both sides. They have no running game, like Josh mentioned. You don't have a second target at wide receiver that really is reliable. Uh, Gabe Davis has had a couple of big games, but otherwise he's been a ghost. McKenzie is not reliable. They had the one guy, I think, I'm forgetting what his name, number 10, that came in here last few weeks, and there might be some potential there. Beasley is a band-aid. He ain't going to be around. Uh, Dawson Knox will have days where he actually can get a couple touchdowns, and then he'll go and put up a donut. So what does that say about your offense? Ken Dorsey in his first year as an offensive coordinator, guy who won a national championship as a quarterback for Miami, played in the NFL, of course, one of about 84 different quarterbacks that started for the Niners uh, back in the day when they were a total dumpster fire. Um, but his game plan was a dumpster fire in general yesterday. You need to take the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. You have to keep him off the freaking field because he was able to kind of just do whatever he wanted. He wanted to throw to Jamar Chase. I mean, I always joke around that he'll throw to Jamar Chase if the whole entire team is covering him. He would do it anyway because that's just how he trusts him. But you have T. Higgins. He's getting his, Tyler Boyd. You have three legitimate wide receivers. I mean, those big two, of course, are number ones. And then Tyler Boyd, definite number two receiver with potential, depending on where you go. Kind of in the same ilk as you have Josh with Christian Kirk at the moment, but that's going to change. The dynamic will change with Ridley as long as he comes back to be some semblance of what he was in Atlanta. The fact is, you have three wide receivers, and then Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst ain't he ain't you can't no sell him. He shows up. He knows how to make plays, and I mean the running game, Mixon, solid, Pirine. So they have a lot of they have the right balance, and they're able to kind of dictate And Joe Burrow, if there's one person that ain't afraid of Kermit the Frog, it's Joe Burrow. He went in Arrowhead, beat them last year, and they were ahead in the Super Bowl too. So the notion that Joe Burrow's afraid, he's not been afraid of ever since he transferred to LSU. He's not been afraid. I mean, the only bad thing that's happened, of course, was that injury, the knee, the ACL in his rookie year. But since then, he's free rolling. And what's scary for the AFC, then AFC North, Baltimore doesn't know what they really want. I think they're going to sign back Lamar Jackson, but they need a new offensive coordinator. They have never had a wide receiver. They do have Mark Andrews, but he gets hurt at least 4 weeks a year. He's always out for at least 4 weeks. They have some issues on the line. They don't know which running back they want. Dobbins, I think, is their main guy, with Gus Edwards probably that balance. But Pittsburgh is on the upswing, but they do have holes. They have things they have to correct. And I mean, Cleveland, who gives a fuck? But the thing is, if you're Pittsburgh or you're Baltimore and you're gonna have to fight Burrow, that's a problem. I mean, granted, he's had his issues with Cleveland. He's definitely had his issues with Baltimore, but they're only getting better. That's what's crazy about it. And they're gonna break them off here whenever their season ends. They're gonna break them off. They have to, because there will be a mutiny in Cincinnati if they don't pay him. Can you imagine since that would be the most Cincinnati Bengals thing ever? You let a hometown kid go because you're too cheap, but I don't think they can do that. I think they'll take care of that, but we'll see what he's able to do. I mean, I guess we talk about this now before we move forward, Josh. The first game, of course, is the NFC Championship game. Niners will be traveling to Philadelphia. Brock Purdy still has he's won every game he's started. Niners haven't lost in over 3 months. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, started 13-0 or 14-0 or some crap like that. I think it was 13-0, and then they lost to the Washington General Redskin Commanders on Monday Night Football. And then from there, it kind of just went away, largely because Jalen Hurts got hurt and they couldn't play him. Granted, was his name Gardner Minshew did a good enough job for them to win against Dallas. It just was a shootout. It didn't work out. And then the second game, I don't think he really played that great. Unless I'm mixing up the fact they were playing the Giants. That was when the Giants had their third string players out there because they didn't care. But Philly has been an absolute ball hawking team, tons of pressure. They play with a lot of big name guys that the two key players that were there for the Super Bowl, Brandon Graham on the defensive side, who made one of the game changing plays in that Super Bowl, and of course Jason Kelce on the offensive line, probably theoretically the best offensive line in the NFL. He is the leader, and I think the NFL wants the Kelce Bowl. They want to have Travis versus Jason, even though it has nothing to do. They're not going to play each other, but they want the Kelce Bowl. They want the Andrew Ryad going against his old team. That's what the NFL wants. But personally, and my bias kicking in here, the 49ers are not going to just roll over and play dead. They did early in the season. They did against Kansas City and got boat raced in their own house. That's the last time they lost. It was in October, and somewhere in October there. So the notion is the Niners are dynamic. They have they have the best defense in the NFL. Yes, their pass defense is suspect, which when you consider A.J. Brown, you consider Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, they're all players that could that are game-breaking type of players. But also, the front seven, but especially Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, they all have bad intentions, and they're wanting to take people's heads off. And you have Hufanga, who's a hitter. You have Jimmy Ward, who's a hitter. I think the Eagles are more of a finesse team outside of AJ Brown, really, and a couple of big hits will probably go and set a trend there. I feel like the Niners, and it's my bias, whatever. I feel like the Niners are going to win uh, by a field goal, 27-24, and advance to the Super Bowl in Glendale. But it will be a tight game. Brock Purdy's going to have to play better than he has in the first half of both of his playoff starts so far. Um, and if he can do that, then they definitely will. I would think would win and win with relative ease and go to Glendale for the Super Bowl. But what are your thoughts, Josh, on the NFC Championship game?
I mean, I think it's going to be a defensive game, personally. Based on how the 49ers defense is, I think they're going to be a good matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles and their running based attack. I think if they can stop the run pretty well, I think it's going to give Jalen Hurts some problems in his game, but we'll see what happens. And I think Brock Purdy is going to have a real challenge against the Eagles defense, but he's got a ton of weapons. With McCaffrey, George Kittle, Debo Samuel, even Brandon Ayuk to an extent. So he's going to have a ton of weapons to be able to rely on in that game. So I think it's going to be a pretty tight defensive game, and I think it's going to come down to final touchdown or final field goal for and I'll go with the 49ers here. I think they'll be able to do it, and I think it's just the experience in the championship game that that the coach Kyle Shanahan has against Nick Sirianni. So I think that's going to be an advantage, having been there before. And, a lot of the players on the 49ers, they've been there in that position. They were there last year. They were there 3 years ago in 2019. And then, go back to, previous, I mean, those are the 3 years or 2 years that they made the playoffs. So, he's had that position before. So I think he'll be able to rely on that experience and get them into the Super Bowl. So, I think it'll be a pretty entertaining game to watch, and I think the 49ers are going to be the ones that can pull it out on the road.
I mean, it's going to be tough for sure. I agree. It will be tight. It should be two best teams in the NFC. It should be a tight game. And the presumptive MVP prior to his injury, Jalen Hurts, this is his spot. It's kind of a way for him to go and exorcise the demons of being benched when he was at Alabama for Tua. If he can go and win this and go to Arizona and win the Super Bowl, he can fade that moment. I mean, hell, he went to Oklahoma and contended for a national championship and also a Heisman Trophy, but he wasn't. He was a different player when he went to Oklahoma. The AFC Championship game, though, we already started talking about that. Joe Burrow, it's a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. Honestly, think they should add that in a neutral site as well, but they only did that under the pretense of Kansas City Buffalo. They had already sold 50,000 tickets at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the game. So it was going to be a big moneymaker for Arthur Blank and the Falcons organization, but alas, Buffalo didn't make it. So Cincinnati travels to KC, a lot of confidence from the likes of Jesse Bates already. The notion is, Joe Burrow has never lost on the road in his playoff career. Most wins at this age in the playoffs or something he's breaking all kinds of records, and he's literally one of the only people who really isn't afraid. Kermit the Frog, but in the end, Kermit the Frog's going to be the MVP for a second time. The last time he won MVP was 2019, of course. It was his second year in the league, first year as a starter. This time, it's a lot different. Everyone talks about no Tyreek Hill. Well, that obviously doesn't matter. He has a running game now for like a real running game with Rutgers product Isaiah Pacheco being the actual downhill runner, and then they have former Niner Jerick McKinnon out there as a pass catcher. You have all these wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez Scantling and Sky Moore and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, the straw that stirs the drink is Travis Kelce. So, what will Cincinnati do? Will Logan Wilson shadow Travis Kelce? What are they going to do to try to take him away? I mean, it's almost impossible. You can't really take him away, but I personally, I want to see Cincinnati win because it would be a rematch of two previous Super Bowls that took place in the 80s and were both good games. In 81, which was in Detroit, and then 88, which I think was in Miami, or I feel like it was in Florida, Tampa or Miami, one of those. And Boomer was doing the "I'm going to Disney World" commercial while Joe Montana was driving the team down the field, and getting that Super Bowl. Probably I think it's Tampa. I feel like it's Tampa, but because Miami is where the Niners won the Super Bowl tomorrow. Because we're doing this on Monday, it's the 24th. It was January 24th, 1995, when Steve Young set the Super Bowl record for 6 touchdown passes against the San Diego Chargers in Miami to win that Super Bowl 49-26 and take that monkey off his back. But I mean, in the end, what is Patrick Mahomes' ankle going to be like? Is he going to be able to move? If he's not able to move, it makes him a little bit more vulnerable than he would be generally, because part of his Houdini act that he does is because he's his athleticism and ability to move the pocket, move out, go and run, do weird shit, and then go and throw the ball sideways or throw the ball like a shot put or go and throw it over his shoulder or whatever the fuck he's going to do. But if he's not able to run on that left side, you know that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be trying to go and tackle him and trying to go and aggravate that injury, and try to get him uncomfortable. The notion that he would be uncomfortable and he just seems like a maestro, who knows? But he's also having to fade the fact that for the first time really in his kingdom or fiefdom of being the face of the NFL, he knows there's somebody that really isn't scared of him. And Joe Burrow ain't scared of him or anybody. I think that Cincinnati wins that game, and they win 31-27 and get back to the Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls. And it would be the Niners and Cincinnati. Be an interesting game for sure. How about you, Josh? What are you looking at for the AFC Championship?
I mean, you've already talked about it a lot, but even though the Kansas City Chiefs won, I actually think their season might have ended because of Patrick Mahomes' injury. I mean, the high ankle sprain is pretty serious. He was able, to play on the injury in the moment against the Jaguars, but I think after the adrenaline wears off and after the painkillers wear off, it's going to be a pretty tough battle this week to be able to play. I think he does play, but it's going to really severely limit his ability to make good throws and make throws under pressure. I mean, he made a lot of throws under pressure in the game against the Jaguars, but he also had some pretty big misses and had trouble with handoffs and certain other plays. Being able to stand on the the right ankle. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles the injury throughout the week, and how much playing time and what type of offense the Chiefs bring out. But I think the Bengals, they were able to really dominate on defense with their defensive line on Sunday against the Bills. So I think they can bring that pressure against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are or the Bengals are the Chiefs' kryptonite. So I think the Bengals are going to be able to pull this one out on the road, be a repeat of last year's AFC Championship game, and I think the Bengals end up being able to go back to the Super Bowl and be a rematch of the Super Bowl from the 1980s. So I think it could be an interesting deal there. I think the offensive line for the Bengals, even though they're injured, they did a good job against the Bills, and I think they are capable of doing that same performance. And plus, you've got a 200 or two-headed monster in running with Joe Mixon and P. Ryan in the backfield. Plus, you got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and no, I forgot. I can't believe I forgot the other guy's name. Their tight end.
Hayden Hurst.
Well, yeah, Hayden Hurst. There, yeah, they got him as well. So, they've got a lot of weapons on offense for the Bengals, but for the Chiefs, Tyler Pacheco is also pretty good. He's a really, really fast runner and knows how to run with power. Of course, he also got to stop Kelsey on there on defense, so that's gonna be interesting. And Smith Schuster's there. He's still got some speed. Kadarius Toney, they traded for him. He's hadn't really produced a whole lot of yards, but when he has touches, he's been pretty effective. So I think that's something you gotta look out for on defense if you're the Bengals. But it's gonna be a pretty tight game. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Bengals come in to Arrowhead and they come out with the W.
So we're both picked the same teams or both sides, Niners, Cincinnati. The NFL and a lot of entities want it to go the other way. We will see what happens, and we'll be back on next week on episode 154 to see who is going to the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about that and talk about both those games for sure. Now, moving on to the big race, of course, this weekend, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. They had qualifying for the Rolex already, which saw Tom Blomqvist qualify his Meyer Shank Racing Acura on the pole with a time of 134.031, speed of 136.295 miles an hour. Wins the pole over Matt Campbell, Felipe Nasr, who qualified the car, and Michael Christensen by 883 thousandths of a second. Ricky Taylor qualified the Konica Minolta Acura, so two Acuras in the top three, and then the three Cadillacs, the two Ganassi cars, the 01, the 02, and then the Whelen Engineering 31, Bourdais, Alex Lynn, Pippo Durrani, the BMW Rahal cars, Philip Eng, and then Nick Yaloy, 7th and 8th, and then issues for the number 6, Porsche of Matthew Jaminet, Nick Tandy, and Dane Cameron didn't qualify, so they'll start 9th in class. But, of course, there's plenty of time, and it is 24 hours. In the LMP2 category, the 52 PR1 Matheson car of Ben Keating, who did qualify the car, ended up on pole by 1.2 seconds, 1.21 seconds over Harayu, whatever, Guido Vandergarde, Josh Pearson, Job Van Oitert, and the TDS number 35. The other TDS car, the number 11, with Seth Thomas, Mikkel Jensen, Scott Huffaker, and Renus VK. Third, AF Corsa, is fourth with Parado qualifying. George Kurtz in the CrowdStrike racing by APR number 04 with Ben Hanley and Matt McMurray fifth. Eric Lux qualified the Rick Ware Racing number 51. He'll have, of course, his teammate for the full season, Pietro Fittipaldi, Daytona 500, defending Daytona 500 champion Austin Cindric, and Devlin DeFrancesco, who won this race last year in the LMP2 category. Dennis Anderson for high class qualified seventh. Dwight Merriman with Ryan Dial, Era Motorsport. They're contenders all year. They are eighth. And then ninth is John Ferrano, Kiffin Simpson, and then the Bus Bros, Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden for Tower Motorsports. And then Portad and Jimmy Bruni in the Proton number 55 round out the LMP2. So they will, that's the first 19 cars in the field, I think, essentially. Or I don't know if they're going to go and line it up full on by time, because then I think they line it up they go and have a staggered start anyways. But the Sean Creech Motorsports Ligier of Barbosa, Pinot qualified 143.197, the time 124.189 miles an hour. Keating's time was 140.541 to 127.47 miles an hour. So out of curiosity, they're giving up about based on pole time, they're giving up nearly 9 miles an hour to the pole speed and 6 seconds, but there's reliability with all those Orica cars. So that might play a role there. In LMP3, I mentioned the 33, the Andretti Auto Sport car, Jared Andretti, Gabby Chavez, Rasmus Lind, Dickerson qualified it, was only 11 hundredths off pole. Performance Tech number 38, they're waiting on their Porsche 963, but they'll be running in LMP3 until that car comes. And they are third. De Oliveira for MRS GT Racing fourth. Gar Robinson, Van Berlo, Fraga, the Riley Motorsports 74 fifth. Former winner of this race, former winner of the championship, etc. Mason Filippi, Bechtel-Scheimer, Mars for the JDC Miller Motorsports. That's the other car that they think I mixed it up. They're the ones that are waiting on the Porsche 963. I don't know if Performance Tech also. I'm not sure. I'm mixing it up probably. Yeah, so there's 9 cars in that field there. Was it 5 Ligiers and 4 Duquesnes? In GTD Pro, the pulse time was 146.784, 120.018 for the WeatherTech Mercedes AMG. Cooper McNeil's one run this year will be with Mercedes factory drivers Daniel Juncadella, Jules Gugnon, and Mauro Engel, who qualified the car. Won the pole over the defending champions of, I think, the Sprint Cup Harder Racing team by 4 hundredths, 41 thousandths of a second. The Aston Martin Roscoe Riberas. The Vassar Sullivan Lexus was third. Barnacote qualified. Hawksworth and Conway, both former IndyCar drivers. Conway, of course, won an IndyCar. Now is a Toyota factory driver. Won Le Mans. Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, Tommy Milner, and the number 3 Corvette. Fourth, the TGM TF Sport Aston, Owen Trinkler, the Plum's father and son. They are fifth. Calderari, Caldarelli, Bertolotti, Jordan Pepper, and Roman Grosjean in the Lamborghini Huracan. Sixth, Bill Auberlin with Bruno Spengler and John Edwards. Turner Motorsport moving one of their cars to the pro category. They're seventh, defending the full season champion, Pfaff Motorsports, new drivers, Bachler, Patrick Pilet, and Lawrence Vantor, who qualified the car. And then the Ferrari of the Risi Competizione Ferrari, Daniel Serra, Perguidi, Collado, Rigon, guys who run in, most of them are running in the World Endurance Championship. The biggest field is the 24 cars of GTD, making up the 61 car field. The Windward Racing number 57 Mercedes on the pole by just over 2/10, 146.093, 120.799 miles an hour. Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, Lucas Auer. The last entry in the field, the Sun Energy Mercedes of Kenny Habel, gets the second starting position. Mike Skeen, who was in championship contention until he got the vid last year with Kenton Koch, Grenier, who qualified the car, and Maximilian Gotz. And the Korthoff Motorsports Mercedes is third. The Racer's Edge Acura with Wayne Taylor Racing, which has Kyle Marcelli qualified, Ryan Briscoe. They start fourth. The Gradient Racing Acura, which has Sheena Monk, who's nice to look at, Catherine Legg. They're going to be the full-time drivers in that car. Mario Farnbacher and Mark Miller are the other drivers for this weekend. The Inception McLaren, sixth. The Harder Racing Aston, seventh. Roman DeAngelis, Marco Sorensen, Ian James, Darren Turner. The Vassar Sullivan Lexus with Aaron Telitz. You have Monte Calvo, Kyle Kirkwood, and Parker Thompson. So really solid lineup there. The 47 Ferrari, Alessandro Balzan, Antonio Fuoco, amongst their driver lineup. The Iron Lynx Lamborghini, Frank Pereira qualified. The Paul Miller Racing BMW with Madison Snow. 11th, the Jersey guys there. Brian Sellers, Madison Snow, Corey Lewis, Maxime Martin. The GTD category, Turner Motorsport, BMW, Robbie Foley, Dynan, Klingman, and Patrick Gallagher. The Magnus Racing team with John Potter, of course, the owner, Andy Lally, Spencer Pumpally, and Nicky Thiem. They're Aston Martin. Wright Motorsports, who has been a contender for many years in this category. Hardwick Halen, who qualified the car, Zachary Robichon. The Iron Dames Lamborghini with the ladies, four ladies, Frey, Bovey, Gadding, and Pin, or Peen probably. Rahel Frey qualified the car 15th. Another Lamborghini, Misha Goikberg, qualified 16th. Then AF Corsa Ferrari, Miguel Molina, Perez, Kompanenk, they're in 17th. Kevin Estra and the Wright Motorsports, a second Wright Motorsports Porsche, Trent Hinman. Then going down with the Kelly Moss Porsches of Joran Bleekemolen, the 92, Andrew Davis there, and Lauer, Kay Van Berlo won in LMP3 last year with the Riley team. So the two Kelly Moss Riley Porsches, 92 and 91. The AO Racing Porsche with Sebastian Prio, Gunnar Jeanette, and Harry Tinknell. Triasari Competizione. I have no idea who any of those people are. the 53 MDK Motorsports Porsche, which has Jan Magnussen, supposed to have Kevin, but he had to get surgery on his wrist, so he's out. Mark Vami and Jan Magnussen, the main players there. Don Yout in the NTE Sport. Lamborghini rounds out the field. Conwright, Lee, and Alessandro Delita, who's not known for his driving quality. So that is the qualifying. That's by class. So I'm not sure how they'll line them up, but 61 cars in this field. I mentioned the 9 prototypes. The Hondas, the Acuras have been really good in recent years. Porsche, Penske Motorsports has the most testing amongst any of these manufacturers. The Cadillacs sound great. They sound like what a cup car should sound like. And their driver lineups are all strong. The notion is that I would say that it's amongst those 7. BMW, the BMW team with Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan is the dark horse, in my opinion. Great driver lineups, of course, but are they going to have the reliability? Are they going to be able to have the speed? Qualifying showed they really didn't have the one-lap speed. Maybe they have the speed in race trim. But we will see about that, what weather conditions come up here this coming weekend. In LMP2, you got 10 cars. The 52 is probably a strong choice because they were winning. They won the Endurance Cup last year. Ben Keating is going between this car, and now he's also going to be driving for Corvette Racing this year in the GT AM category. So it's going to be a big year for him. You look at some of these other cars. The Aero Motorsport cars struggled in qualifying, but you have Ryan Dial, Oliver Jarvis, who won the championship last year, and with Meyer Shank, Dwight Merriman, and Christian Rasmussen. Great, solid lineup there. Stephen Thomas, Mikkel Jensen, Scott Huffaker, and Rinus VK in the TDS car. And then number 11, and then the 8 with Ferrano, Kiffin Simpson, and then Scott McLaughlin and Joseph Newgarden. There's really solid, strong drivers here in this class. It's going to come down to the end, maybe only a lap separation, I would think, in this class, maybe if that. I would definitely say a dark horse candidate in that category is the Rick Ware 51, largely because Eric Lux has been in this series for many years. He understands what you need to do to win these races. Pietro Fittipaldi is just fast. Cindric, he's not as familiar in prototypes, but honestly, he had a career, I think, in sports cars if he wanted to do that. But of course, he wanted to go NASCAR racing. I think it worked out for him. In LMP3, the Sean Creek Motorsports Ligier, I would venture to say, is the favorite there. The 36 has some really solid drivers. And then the 74 Riley car is probably the other one that I would say. Those are the 3 to look at. The Performance Tech team is solid, and they got a youth, and they got some fresh faces. JDC Miller with Bechtelsheimer, Mason Filippi, and Luca Mars. That they could be a sneaky pick there. In GTD Pro, Pfaff has been great over the last few years. Their Porsche factory drivers. Corvette wants to win Daytona again. This class is going to probably go down to the wire. The Mercedes really seem to be fast at Daytona, so that might give an edge to the WeatherTech car. But I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of these picks. The one sneaky player is that 64 Aston. All the other teams have proven uh, lineups or proven people in not just GT but in prototypes or whatever. So that's something to look at. GT Daytona is a toss up. There's so many cars in this 25 entries. I mean, you can't go wrong going and picking a Porsche at Daytona. Uh, but also you think about some of the speed of some of these cars. I mean, the Mercedes, as I mentioned earlier, definitely fast. So a lot of the Mercedes qualified up front, and then you have so they moved. I guess they moved Bill Auberlin. Yeah, so they moved that car into the GT Pro, and then kept Robbie Foley's car in GT Daytona. Okay, interesting. Um, going through that, I mean, those are some of these cars here. I mean, the Mercedes are the ones to watch. The 57, the 32. Uh, I think those two cars they ran this past year, so they've got experience. The Astons have good pace, but the Porsches are going to be there at the end, whether it's the right motorsports car. Uh, I think that's one. That would be one I would look at. The Wright Motorsports 16 would probably be one to look at. Um, as a Jersey guy, be cool to see the um, the Paul Miller Racing team get the job done. There's some Jersey representation through this field. So I mean, there's 61 cars, a lot of great drivers, people who have been in or who are in NASCAR or in IndyCar, guys who've had cups of coffee in Formula One. There's a lot of talent in this race. It's a very strong race. The biggest storyline is going to be what happens with the uh, GTP cars, the LMDH cars, in terms of reliability. Can they make 24 hours? If they can, then it should be a interesting battle amongst them. If they have problems, which over the years that was a thing, and I was watching the 2000 Rolex when was it Rob Dyson's 20 car was blowing up, and eventually it quit, and then the Vipers won. The following year, the Dyson team had mechanical problems again, allowing Corvette to get a 1-2 finish in the Rolex 24. And that was the year that Dale Earnhardt drove with Dale Jr. in the second Corvette. So in 2003, the debut of the Daytona prototype category, Kevin Buckler and the Racers Group won with basically a GT2 Porsche, one overall. 1994, mechanical problems for all the WSC, the open top sports cars, saw the Cunningham Nissan 300ZX win. In 95, a Le Mans based Kramer Porsche won the overall over the World Sports Cars. The first time the World Sports Car actually won was 96, and that was where everybody found out about Mad Max Pappas, but they lost to the Blowsmobile team with Wayne Taylor, Scott Sharp, and Jim Pace. But Max Pappas was able to win that race a few years later. Ferrari was able to win that race too with a 333 SP. So, lot to look at. A lot of competition. Great deep field. Hopefully, it's a sign of things to come. Maybe some of those what do you call hypercars? Well, LMH cars will come over here in upcoming years and race at Daytona and race at Sebring in the 12 hours of Sebring, not just the Sebring 1000, but I think this is last year, the Sebring 1000. Indianapolis, it looks like Penske wants to have an Enduro there. along with, of course, Petit Le Mans and the 6 hours at the Glen. So we'll see about that. I mean, the Michelin Pilot Challenge, there's a few of the young Ford drivers in NASCAR racing in that Michelin Pilot Challenge race, and GS and the Mustang GT4s. Zane Smith and Haley Deegan and Harrison Burton. What's the other one I'm forgetting now off the top of my head? Ben Rhodes. So Ben Rhodes is the other one, former Truck Series champion, former winner on that road course, the NASCAR version of the road course there. So, and on the oval too. So, we'll see about all that. Mazda MX-5 Cup, of course, will be probably one of the closest races of the whole entire weekend because of all the drafting they're able to do and the speed. So that'll be one to watch. Let's get into NASCAR news, Josh. I think the big piece, one is odds. There's, I don't know whose odds they are. I guess Odds Checker has put out odds for Cup Series champion, and they're saying William Clyde Elliott II is the favorite at 5.5 to 1, with an implied chance of 15.4%. His teammate, the 2021 series champion Kyle Larson, is 6.5 to 1, 13.3% chance. Denny Hamlin, 9 to 1 to finally get that elusive championship. Ryan Blaney is at 10 to 1. Ross Chastain, 12, along with Christopher Bell, defending series champion Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch moving over to Richard Childress Racing. William Byron is at 14 to 1, and Tyler Reddick moving over to 2311 is at 16 to 1. Interesting to look at their early odds in terms of the championship. Joey Logano being behind his teammate Ryan Blaney, I think is surprising. Kyle Busch, who hasn't even run one lap for RCR, being in that mix in the same percentage there. You had four Toyota drivers there. Noticeably missing was Martin Truex Jr. And then some people would want to say something, but Bubba Wallace did win at Kansas last year and showed a lot of potential there at the second half of the season with 2311. The Legacy Motor Club is announced Todd Gordon, the former championship winning crew chief for Joey Logano a few years ago. Had retired, gotten off the road, was working for MRN. Now he's coming back to work the limited schedule for Jimmy Johnson on the 84. Dave Ellens signed an extension to go to continue working with Eric Jones. Of course, they won the Southern 500 last year, so why would you leave at that's an opportunity there to stick around, and they have there's a lot going on there. The NMPA had awards, and they had the Hall of Fame induction there too. Or that might be, I think it's NMPA, or maybe mixing it up with somewhere else. Some of the other pieces there, I like the one thing I got a kick out of was Martinsville is leaving the Ross Chastain Hail Melon stripe on the wall until the race week comes in April. So that's something if you want to go and take a picture of the Hail Melon aftermath on the wall. They inducted the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The induction took place last week. Saw, of course, Matt Kenseth, Kirk Shelmerdine and Herschel McGriff get in, and then the Pioneer Award was Helton. So that was a nice ceremony. They had an interesting way of, they had their speeches or whatever, individual speeches, but then they also had kind of like a round table with key players. Kansas case, it was Junebug and Robbie Reiser. Kirk Shelmerdine, it was Will Lind and Richard Childress. Herschel McGriff, it was Ron Hornaday Jr. and Mr. the King. So that was cool to see all that. Those were interesting, and a lot of stories were told there. It was cool to see. There was other sponsor stuff like Ryan Preece with the United Rentals. We know that was happening. 10 races. DeWalt will be on the 20 car. Bass Pro will continue to sponsor Bald Spot Dylan, Celsius Energy Drink will sponsor Corey LaJoy, including at Daytona. Some other sponsors, Castrol Edge will be on the car. The Roush Fenway Keselowski cars. Former Busch Series winner and driver Elton Sawyer is now the senior vice president of competition for NASCAR, taking over for that bobblehead Scott Miller. You got some other ones. Yeah, Chandler Smith is going to attempt the Daytona 500 in a number, number 13 car? Yeah, number 13 car in the Cup Series. Of course, number 16 in the Xfinity Series. There's news. I don't know if Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, amongst others, going to make guest appearances in the SRX, Thursday Night Thunder. Hamlin gonna do a podcast.
Yeah, with Dale Jr.
Something on being a part of the Dirty Mo Media. Xfinity, we mentioned Ryan Ellis. Of course, he's gonna be driving for Alpha Prime. Got a sponsor for Vegas. Brad Perez will be racing at least one race at COTA, and with a possibility of running the Chicago street course for Emerling Gase Racing. Justin Haley has been announced as a lead driver, part of the all-star car in the 10 for Kaulig Racing, and because of the sponsorship situation there. Ryan Vargas is going to drive for Mike Harmon in the 74, and he'll also be driving the number 30 On Point truck. So that'll be something to see for Vargas. William Sawalich will be driving for Tricon Garage in 6 races this year. So there's that. Trying to go through rookie of the year candidates. Yeah, so in the truck series, there will be 5. Rajah Caruth and Daniel Dye, the teammates of GMS. Nick Sanchez with Rev / Kyle Busch Motorsports. Bill McAnally racing with Jake Garcia, and Brett Holmes driving for himself in number 32. Sammy Smith in the 18 for JGR, Parker Retzlaff for Jordan Anderson, and Chandler Smith will be rookies in the Xfinity Series, and then Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs will be the rookies in the Cup Series, which everybody knew anyway. So, Josh, I don't know which ones stood out to you, some of these stories or some of the pieces that came out over the last week or so, but I think the Jimmy Johnson being able to get Todd Gordon to come out of retirement is pretty big. Sam Hunt going and getting Tyler Reddick, who won last year for the 48 team, which now has Parker Kligerman running for them full time. But I think that's a huge get for Sam Hunt Racing to go and get a two-time Xfinity champion to drive for them, get that R&D, get that knowledge in their team. Of course, they have the connection with Joe Gibbs Racing too, so they get good pieces there.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of early season or preseason news come out for NASCAR, but I think you brought up the championship odds, the early odds for the championship, and I find it unbelievable a little bit that Chase Elliott is the early odds on favorite. I mean, even though he did have a good regular season, and he was able to go out and secure the regular season championship and everything, but he had a really weak playoff run, and I don't really get that one. I mean, if anything, it should be Logano to be the favorite, or even Kyle Larson to an extent. I think both those drivers had better playoff runs than Chase Elliott. I mean, even though Chase Elliott made it to the Final Four, but he didn't do anything. Like, he literally just kind of hung around and was able to make it into the Final Four. So I mean, obviously it's the betting or whatever, but like I guess they are trying to pick something, but I just don't understand the feeling there in that sentiment. But it is what it is, and maybe he ends up being the champion, and we're all wrong. So we'll see. But yeah, it's just my opinion on that one. As far as the other stories, I mean, obviously Todd Gordon coming out of retirement, it's a good pick, championship winning crew chief with Joey Logano. Going out and pairing up with the 7-time champion and the 7-time owner and 7-time legend with Richard Petty there. But that's significant, obviously, but at the same time, it's only part-time, so he's coming out of retirement for a little bit, but it's gonna be interesting help with leadership that guy's had at Penske, bring that over to that team, Legacy Motor Club. Should be interesting. He's been championship owner or championship winner before, so bring that level of experience to that team and help them grow along with Jimmy. I'm sure he'll have ideas on setup and on how to prepare the car and be asset to the other 2 full-time cars. So I think that's a pretty significant signing there. But yeah, I mean, some of these other stories, like with Reddick running in the Sam Hunt Racing. I mean, obviously it's alignment with Toyota. Obviously the 48 was a Chevy, so clearly this is a helping Toyota with their Xfinity program, and obviously not a Joe Gibbs Racing car, but still affiliated with Toyota. So, and they've had Joe Gibbs drivers before, with John Hunter Nemechek through KBM running for Sam Hunt. So this is kind of the same time in there, but he's getting more experience throughout the weekends, and certainly should help him be a better at whatever track he's going to be running for Xfinity, and of course helps that team with the 2-time Xfinity champion coming to race their cars, and being able to get it feedback experience from that. So should be interesting. Some of the other stories here, of course, Vargas running double duty in Xfinity trucks. I mean, why not try to get more exposure, and try to, level on up into a bigger ride or better ride in one of those series. So just get more chances there. The Rookie of the Year candidates in these, throughout the series. So you got Carruth, Daniel Dye, Nick Sanchez, Jake Garcia, Brett Holmes, all running in Rookie of the Year for Craftsman Trucks. It's going to be interesting. A lot of these guys don't have a ton of experience, but expect Roger Carruth in 24 with GMS to be really good, and Brett Holmes, Nick Sanchez, those guys could be pretty competitive as well. And then from there, I mean, that's really the only deep rookie class in NASCAR this season so far. You got Sammy Smith and Parker Retzlaff going up against each other. But I mean, I think clearly, Sammy Smith probably the favorite to win.
Chandler Smith.
Okay, and Chandler Smith. I'm looking at the posts on J-Ski, and they only have two in each series for. Okay, so they did add Chandler Smith, so that's true. So I was looking at the list, and they hadn't updated it on J-Ski, but they did have the tweet above it, and I was just reading off the list. But yeah, Sammy Smith, Chandler Smith, that should be the race then for the Xfinity class for rookies. Retzlaff might have speed at some of the tracks, but yeah, I think he's. I think he's probably good, but just Jordan Anderson Racing, they're not really a top contender. At most of the tracks, they've got decent speed, but they're not going to be able to hang with Colleague or Joe Gibbs Racing, in my opinion. But we'll see. It could come down to some lucky results here throughout the year, and then of course in the Cup Series, you got basically the rivals from the Xfinity Series we talked about before with Gregson and Gibbs coming up to the Cup Series. And there's only two drivers in the rookie class, but at the same time, two very, very talented drivers. So in that regard, a very quality rookie class, regardless of their character or whatever. They both proven themselves now in the Xfinity Series, and now they're taking the next step in the Cup Series. So we'll see what they're able to do. But it should be interesting throughout the year what these two guys can do behind the wheel of the next gen car, and which one can handle it and potentially get their first victory, or possibly even, if they do win, either of them qualify for the NASCAR playoffs. So we'll see how that turns out. But almost kind of similar to some of the rookie classes that we've seen in the past, where you had two drivers, or only a handful of drivers compete, but they're both really good. Not making any comparisons or anything, but go back to the 2000 rookie class, Dale Jr. and Matt Kenseth, both popular drivers and both very good drivers in the Busch Series back in '98 and '99, and then go to 2002 rookie class, Jimmy Johnson, of course, and not Ty Gibbs, but and Ryan Newman. Both of those guys, those are the two rookies that year, but both of them went on to have pretty successful careers in NASCAR. So you don't always need a deep rookie class to see how rookies are going to do. Sometimes you just have a handful, and it should be a very interesting race throughout the year to see who gets rookie of the year, and who makes the most waves in the Cup Series this season. So should be an interesting battle throughout the year.
Considering how many drivers won last year in the Cup Series, what will happen in year two of the next Gen 7 car? Will it continue with some of these new guys, the two rookies, and then you add AJ Allmendinger running a full-time schedule? Justin Haley got close a couple of times. There's other people there. Ryan Preece is now a full-time driver for Stuart Haas. There's some players, people who didn't win last year, Blaney, Martin Truex, amongst others. So those are all players for sure. The rookie battle, quality over quantity in the Cup Series. Xfinity, like Josh said, is pretty straightforward between the Smiths. And then the Truck Series one will be one to look at. I think the two diversity guys with Nick Sanchez, the defending ARCA Series champion, driving for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and Raja Caruth driving for GMS. Daniel Dye is aggressive, knowing that they have that veteran leadership with Mike Beam, and Grant Enfinger and all. I think that'll be a big part of what can help one of those guys in their run to possibly win Rookie of the Year. So, and trying to make the truck playoffs is very difficult too. So that's something to look at as well with their wonky schedule. Okay, so we will move on to the roundup, GSP roundup. Start with the opener for the World Rally Championship 2023 Rally Monte Carlo. Sebastian Ogier, the 8-time world champion, is now a 9-time winner of Rally Monte Carlo, breaking his tie with his longtime rival, Sebastian Loeb. Beating in his Toyota. He finished second in this race last year to Loeb, who was driving for Ford. Ogier beats the defending world champion Cali Rovanpera by 18.8 seconds. And third place was Thierry Neuville in a Hyundai. Toyota takes, 3 of the top 4 and 4 of the top 6 spots. Tanak, former world champion, in his first race back with Ford, finished 5th. Takamoto Katsuda finished 6th. Danny Sordo, 7th. Esa-Pekka Lappi for Hyundai was 8th. The Rally 2 winner finished 9th. Don't know any of the people. Are Adrian Formeau was driving Rally 2 Ford. Last year he was in the WRC or in the Rally 1 class. Oliver Solberg running a Skoda finished 14th. Stefan Lefebvre, former sports car driver. Now he does rallying. Francois Delacour, he's got to be like 90 years old. Jeez. Look through some of these other people. Yeah, no. Okay. So their next race will be Rally Sweden. Ogier is only running a limited schedule. So the points battle, of course, is Rovanpera over Neuville, Evans, Tanak, and Katsuda. That's what we'll look at right now. Of course, Ogier has an 8-point lead or 3-point lead because of the bonus points that Rovanpera got through the power stage to end the race. Rovanpera has a 6-point lead on Neuville and 8 points on Evans, 9 on Tanak. Trying to see here, yeah, got stuff about supercars and the balance of performance there. Doesn't look so good for Ford. Valuation, Nick Tandy, you had wrecked in qualifying in the Porsche that's in the bus stop. You got some of that other stuff there. Supercross was in San Diego this past weekend. Saw more of the usual so far in recent races. We saw the Eli Tomac get his second win of the year out of 2 races. Of course, they were not able to race at I think Anaheim 2 or whatever, Oakland, because of the mudslides and everything that was going on. So they were able to run at San Diego this past weekend. In the 250 race, it was Jet Lawrence led every lap, and he is the points leader by 6 over RJ Hampshire and 10 over Cameron McAdoo. So RJ Hampshire riding for, Jet Lawrence for Honda, RJ Hampshire for Husqvarna, and Cameron McAdoo for Kawasaki. You have Enzo Lopes is on Yamaha, and Mitchell Oldenburg is on a Kawasaki as well. And or no, actually he's on a Honda. My fault there. The race itself at San Diego, Lawrence, Hampshire, McAdoo, your podium. Enzo Lopes was 4th. Pierce Brown on the gas finished 5th. Dials Robertson 6th. Oldenburg 7th. Phil Nicoletti 8th. Derek Kelly and Cole Thompson round out your top 10. Trying to see all that. Nobody who fell out, anybody of great significance there. And then in the 450 class, to scroll through all that, and see Eli Tomac win his second race of the season over Cooper Webb and Justin Barcia. So Yamaha, KTM, and Gas. Ken Roczen fourth on the Suzuki. Chase Sexton coming from the LCQ to get in. Started 19th, finished fifth. Dylan Ferrandis, Jason Anderson, Adam Cianciarulo, Aaron Plessinger, and Joey Savacci round out the top 10. Malcolm Stewart had speed, but like at Anaheim, crashed multiple times. Finished 15th, so unfortunate for him. Dean Wilson had a rough go of it as well. And you got Colt Nichols, got the whole shot, but wasn't able to really hold up there. Christian Craig, just outside the top 10 as well. The point standings right now, Eli Tomac has a 6-point lead over Cooper Webb, and 13 on Chase Sexton, and 15 on Roczen, 16 over Ferrandis, and 19 over Justin Barcia, 20 on Jason Anderson. So that's already in 2 races. That's you're giving up all those points. I mean, Cooper Webb is having a great comeback season after a rough year last year as trying to defend his second championship. But he needs to win. He needs to get past Eli Tomac, because if this continues, it's going to be over. Sexton has to limit the mistakes. He's got the speed to be up there, but he needs to limit the mistakes to be able to battle Tomac. They'll be racing Anaheim 2 this coming weekend for the Supercross, both the 250 and 450 classes. We'll talk about it next week, of course, on the episode 154 of the GSP. We have Nitro Rallycross, first time for them on the show. That's the all electric class of rallying, and they raced at Trois Rivières and saw Oliver Eriksson to win the race. And so trying to see their race results here. It'd be nice if they could actually list it. No, they don't. That's stupid. All right. Group E results. There you go. In at Trois Rivières, saw Oliver Eriksson beat brother Kevin by 3.298 seconds, and then Robin Larson third, Fraser McConnell fourth, Travis Pastrana fifth, Oliver Bennett sixth, Connor Martell seventh, and Andreas Backerud finished eighth. You had Travis won at Phoenix earlier last year. You had and at round 3 in Minneapolis. So he's won a couple of races so far this season. Now I'm trying to go and see drivers. I don't know where the points. They don't show the point standings though. But yeah. So the next race they'll have is in Calgary at the Stampede Park, where Calgary. Calgary Stampeders football team plays. So that they'll race there in a couple weeks' time, and then in the final race will be at Glen Helen Raceway to end the 2022-2023 season. So that Michaela, she's the one that was in Extreme E. George McGinnis. Oh, so that's a petrol class. Okay. I don't know what cross car is. Never even, most of them are all Swedish. Huh. She looks depressed. What's it called? I'm trying to go through here. Oh, so Travis Pastrana is in that class. Okay. And she ain't bad looking. Might have to. Oh, Maddo is in that class, and then racist Brian Deegan, Jeff Matasevich, the former Supercross rider back in the day. Leah Block is in that class. Okay, B.J. Baldwin. Oh, interesting. Okay, got to do a little bit more digging on the class there. Formula E will be back this weekend for a doubleheader at the Saudi E-Prix in Diriyah or whatever. Been there a few times. As it stands, they raced at Mexico City at Hermanos Rodriguez, Jake Dennis for Andretti, Andretti Porsche won the first race. Verline for the Porsche factory team was second, and he's tied with former champion Luca de Grassi, who's racing for Mahindra this year. Andre Lauder's fourth, JQ's fifth. Some of the people look at, I'm trying to see who, somebody's missing. They're going to miss, what's it called, this race. Kelvin Vanderlinde is going to replace Robin Freins because of the broken wrist and suffered in a crash there for Freins. So I'm trying to see where if Freins even had. I don't think if he crashed, he had to have not. He didn't score. And, it doesn't look. Yeah, he didn't score there. Buemi, DaCosta, former champions of the series. Stoffel Van Dorn, the defending world champion. John Eric Verne didn't score points. Former champion. He'll look for recovery there. And the doubleheader, trying to get some points back. But it'll be interesting to see with this new Gen 3 car what can come of what happens in qualifying and what they're able to do in the race. It was kind of wild in the first race. So something to see. Andretti Autosport is up 14 points on Porsche, 20 on Mahindra, and McLaren and Envision are tied with 10 points apiece, fourth and fifth. Jaguars sixth, and Dragon Racing, which is the DS team now, is seventh. The Maserati team, Team Apt, Nissan, EDAMS, and Neo team did not score points, so we'll see if they can get on the board this weekend. After Saudi, they'll wait a couple of weeks and they'll be going to Hyderabad in India for the first India E-Prix. So cool to see that. Get to the last part of the roundup is Race of Champions. This weekend, be running snow and ice in Sweden. So the cars, they're going to have a Cupra electric. I think it's an electric, concept. And they're going to have two electric cars. Okay. A Polaris. What is it? I forget what they call those cars, but quad. It's not a quad, but it's got the roof or whatever, a supercar light. So those are four different types of vehicles. And then the drivers for the race for this weekend amongst the group will be four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, Formula One world champion, nine-time world rally champion Sebastian Loeb, four-time winner of this race of champions and won the ROC Nations Cup once. Vettel has won this race of champions once and the Nations Cup 7 times. Travis Pastrana coming back for an 8th time, finished second in the Nations Cup. So we'll see what he can do. Mick Schumacher, a silver in the Nations Cup. He'll be working with his mentor, Sebastian Vettel, for Germany. Try to get another championship, get another race of champions. Valtteri Bottas making his debut in this competition. Jamie Chadwick for the second time racing in this, so see what she can do. The Andretti Autosport driver in whatever they call it, Indy FX or whatever the fuck they called it, whatever they named the Indy Light Series. Thierry Neuville making his debut in this competition. Then you have Johan Christofferson, 5-time World Rallycross champion and Extreme E champion last year. So won one Nations Cup. David Coulthard has won the Race of Champions twice and ROC Nations Cup once. And he's like 85. Oliver Solberg, junior champion, the son of former World Rally champion Petter, part of a winning team in the Nations Cup. Tanner Faust making his second appearance in the Race of Champions, working with Travis Pastrana. So we'll see what he can do. Felipe Drogovic, the Formula 2 champion, making his debut. Mika Hakkinen racing with Valtteri Bottas. So that'll be for Finland. Only his second time in this race. Tom Christensen, the nine-time winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours, finished second in the Race of Champions 5 times, and in the Nations Cup won 3 times. So something to see what he can do. Adrian Tambay, the son of former Formula 1 driver Patrick Tambay, making his debut. Petter Solberg is going to be racing not with his son, because different nationality. He's going to be racing. Trying to see who he is going to be racing with. Listed, and they should list it by the team, but whatever. Silver in the Nation Race of Champions, 2-time winner in the Nations Cup. Matthias Ekstrom, 3-time winner of the Race of Champions, former 2-time DTM champion, and won the Nations Cup once. Felix Rosenqvist will be making his debut. The IndyCar driver for McLaren will be driving with Oliver Solberg. That could be a very formidable driver pairing for sure. And then, Faust Pastrana, Christofferson, Ekstrom. So that's going to be really tough. Sweden's going to be tough. Adrian Tambay joining Sebastian Loeb. That's so that'll be a good thing to see. We'll see what happens with that. Who does what? I'm trying to go Legend, Rising Stars. Valtteri Bottas, they talked about. Loeb beats Vettel. Crown Rock Jones, Sweden, Snow. And then Petter and Oliver Solberg. Okay. So last year, father and son raced with each other. And now this year, they're racing for different. So I don't understand that, but whatever. Or maybe they are racing together. Maybe I looked at it wrong, but trying to go 10. Yeah, the Norway's route. Okay, so they are racing together, even though the flags are different. Okay. All right, so that'll be something. They'll be a formidable team too. And we'll let you know who won the Race of Champions and the Nations Cup next week on the GSP. Josh, your time to go and let us know what's going on in the world of sim racing and iRacing and other gaming platforms to see what's up there. Been a lot of things going on recently, of course. So let us know what is going on in iRacing and elsewhere.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours was this past weekend. I was actually not in it, but had other plans this weekend. It was in Orlando, but it happened, and was obviously the first of the special events this year on iRacing. But it was, from what I saw, is a pretty good event. I didn't really hear any complaints, really, or major complaints like with the 24 hours virtual Le Mans that happened a couple weeks ago. Nothing like that. So at least iRacing seems to have their stuff working out. Mostly smooth, I'm gonna guess, and no real issues. I think I saw Tony Kanon like complain about something on Twitter, but I haven't really looked into it. But I think maybe there's just some issues that he was running into, but I don't think it was a problem that affected everybody, like what happened at the 24 Hours Le Mans with motorsport games. But iRacing's certainly a lot better infrastructure there. But let's see here. The 24 Hours of Le Mans or at Daytona for iRacing, of course, had 16,000 drivers, and among those 16,000, they had 4,100 teams. Take place, 85 splits. So a lot of people were on that. A lot, on that game during that time. So a lot of people, and it was a very interesting event. I think Williams Esports won in the BMW prototype that they have available now, the LMDH, BMW V8 hybrid that they have on there. That was won the official iRacing, so that's like, I guess, the highest split on broadcast that all the esports teams participate in. Williams Esports took home the victory there, so good result there. But the ability to run the Rolex 24 in that class, and then also run against the Dallara P27 or P217 and GT3 LMP2s. It's a interesting event. Of course, mirrors the real life event that's going to happen this weekend. So opportunity, if you're able to run that, it's always interesting. I know there have been people in the past that have tried to run the whole thing themselves solo to be able to run or raise money for charities or whatever on their stream. I've known people that have done that in the past, so I didn't hear anything about it this year. So that's always interesting challenge. Of course, that was the big event this past weekend on iRacing. I did some iRacing myself with the Ferrari GT3 Challenge Cup. Ran the Daytona Speedway road course, and ran 15-minute races. So it's pretty interesting there. With the new pedals that I got, this past December, been able to feel like I've been getting better at road course racing. But also there have been some times where I got really aggressive and went too deep into the corner and spun out or whatever. But that's part of it, part of the growth, I guess, trying to expand into road course racing now with being able to brake a lot more accurately and brake more efficiently with those new pedals. So we'll continue to run road racing there, everything this week. iRacing, it's an interesting time to be playing iRacing, of course. As we get ready for the new racing season to start, and everything. In the NASCAR series this week on the oval side, you've got, in the 87 cars, you've got Talladega is on the schedule this week, so that should be interesting. And then Xfinity, Indianapolis Motor Speedway Oval on the schedule, so that should be a interesting set of super speedway racing and then speedway racing with the Xfinity car. Otherwise, you've got the IndyCar at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I think this is on the new oval at Atlanta, so it's gonna be super fast, and you're gonna have a lot of drafting and all that stuff with the IndyCar. Road racing wise, you got the what you have the Toyota GR86 series, which has been a pretty interesting series that I've liked racing as of late. You got this week on that event or that series, you have the I'm trying to pull this up on the schedule. But it's been an interesting series to race in. So far, cars are pretty stable and everything. I think they're racing at Laguna Seca this weekend, so there should be interesting race there. Or actually, no, not Laguna Seca. They're racing at Fuji International Speedway. Sorry, I was reading schedule wrong. But yeah, at Fuji International Speedway, so the Grand Prix circuit there. So that might be an interesting one to participate in. Global Fanatec Challenge racing at Spa, so that's the Cadillac CTS or the Kia Optima. Should be good racing there. Then you have the Skip Barber racing. Let's see, this week Skip Barber racing at Watkins Glen on the boot, so that might be an interesting one there. I think Skip Barber is one of the free cars that comes in the series with iRacing when you sign up. You have the GT3 Challenge that I talked about earlier. This week they're going to be competing at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit, so that should be interesting there. You have the Touring Car Challenge with the Hyundai Velociter and the Honda Civic and the Hyundai Elantra and the Audi RS3 competing this week at Magny Cours, so should be interesting to be race in that series. So there's a lot of opportunities, road or oval, as always on iRacing, and it's a great platform to be able to compete on, and have a stable platform, unlike other people, other developers, to be able to compete on. So, at least it's got that going, and you can go on and race whenever you want, and whether you're in a community or in just on the regular schedule that they provide, you can race at any time and have a lot of fun. So, of course, it's been going to be a good year of sim racing. I think even with all the controversies that have happened, should be a lot of fun to be had this year. And of course, when I stream, of course, you can follow on Twitch TV /UCLR2 and go on there and see all my racing when I do put it on. So, should be a good year for streaming, good year for sim racing overall. Then of course we'll start the close here. Of course, as I mentioned, you follow at Twitch TV /UCLR2. Go and watch my iRacing streams when I have it on. Still have some of my highlights from last year on there and my latest broadcasts on there from a couple weeks ago. And watch also the Indy 500 highlight that's there, should be there for the end of time, so you can be able to go on there and watch that stuff. And then of course Twitter, JP Huffine, go in there and see all my racing takes as we get ready for the new season of racing, and being able to talk about that, and then also the 2022 Jags season and everything that happened there. Of course, all my takes, opinions, and likes and retweets on that one. So go look up and follow my page there at JP Huffine, and then of course our YouTube page where post the videos for this show. Go in there, follow our page, Grip Shooter Podcast, and go and see our stuff there. Like and subscribe to our videos, comment, engage, do whatever, and give feedback, and subscribe to the show, support the show through that avenue, and continue to help us out as we continue to progress into this year of racing. So, as always, Phil, glad to be on another week of racing, another week of sports, and talking about it with you. So, good luck to 49ers, and good luck to you this Sunday, and hopefully we come on this show next week. 49ers will be in the Super Bowl again, so looking forward to talking about that. So, of course, hand it over to you for the rest of the close.
Absolutely, man. Wouldn't want to do the show with anyone else. We always are able to discuss all things motorsports and sports on the GSP. You can find us anywhere where podcasts are basically distributed. We're basically everywhere in terms of the Gripstrip podcast, at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. We're on, of course, YouTube, Gripstrip Podcast. Josh handles that. We're also, I'm on Twitter at Philip G. Matthew. Twitter decided to crap out earlier this afternoon, so looks like it's back to being okay, or whatever it is. But yeah, you can find us. You can find the show also at philipgmatthew.com. And if you wanted to go in the blog site, hoping to go and get that going again, and go and start writing more. So we'll see about that. Part of the progression in this new year, part of going and growing as part of new year and turning the page on to age 38. So we'll see what we can do with that, and enjoy this week. Taking some vacation, so it's nice. Don't really get to do that usually, so it's nice to actually take some time off. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to some other activities along with the bowling and hanging out with family and the like. So hope we'll have some good news on next week for episode 154 of the Grip Strip podcast, meaning that the Niners are in the Super Bowl. Either way, it's gonna be an interesting couple of games on Sunday during championship weekend, and hope you all will go and keep on liking, subscribing, going and sharing our show, and let other people know to listen to the Grip Strip podcast. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Enjoy the football, enjoy the Rolex, and we'll be back next week for episode 154 of the Grip Strip podcast. Take care. Goodbye.